If you've ever wondered what these circular icons mean, then you've come to the right place. Today I will be examining the histories and intricacies of EPCOT's many pavilion icons. I'm Miss Morrow, and this is a brief guide to EPCOT's icons. Part 1. Imagining Icons. In the developmental phase of EPCOT Center, not EPCOT City of Tomorrow, Disney Imagineers were tasked with creating a sort of visual language for the new theme park. As with any logo, many potential designs were assembled for EPCOT Center. Looking at the early designs, the underlying themes are clear. EPCOT is futurism, clean lines, bursts of energy, movement, and bold ideas. But the icon that stood out, the design that informed the EPCOT logo you may know today, was designed by Norm Inoue. 5 rings, interlocking like a flower, with a star at the center. To Norm, the 5 rings represented the 5 underlying goals or themes of EPCOT: information, technology, environment, education, and entertainment, all linked together to form a united idea and place. Only one truly notable adjustment was made from here to create the final EPCOT logo. Instead of a star at the center of the 5 rings, the outline of a globe would more prominently occupy the heart of the icon that would come to represent EPCOT. Linked ideas and ideals with the Earth, our world, and our home as the central focus. The star even lives on, however less prominently. It's a little hard to see, but it's still there. What's Disney without a star to wish on, right? Leading Imagineer Marty Sklar would later describe the logo as a symbol of unity, fellowship, and harmony around the world. The hope that with imagination, commitment, and dedication, we can create a better tomorrow. From the 5 united circles came the idea for individual circular icons that would represent the individual pavilions found inside EPCOT. Norm also worked to design the pavilion's icons, and apparently he and his team designed hundreds before landing on the original 8. Spaceship Earth, Communicore, World of Motion, Horizons, Universe of Energy, The Living Seas, The Land, and Journey into Imagination. Okay, now that we've covered the basics, let's look at each icon a little closer, starting with 1. Spaceship Earth. It's the heart of EPCOT, so it's the perfect place to start. Spaceship Earth is a pavilion and attraction focused on the history of human communication technology, which is arguably a fairly broad subject to condense down to a few circles and lines. So with this icon, we see our Earth, our spaceship traveling through time and space on a forward trajectory with the motion lines to prove it. That says we're going places. Next, let's travel to Future World West to find and examine our next icon. 2. The Living Seas. Sure, the name of the pavilion has changed over the years, but the icon has remained the same. Although notably, this was the last of the original Future World pavilions to open in January 1986, a little more than 3 years after EPCOT's opening day. This icon makes waves and gets the point across easily. Right next door is 3. The Land. The land icon makes use of the same globe at the heart of the EPCOT logo, but this time a small plant grows at the heart of it all. Plant life, for beauty or nourishment or both, is the simple, straightforward inspiration for this pavilion and its icon. Of course, the globe implicates us all as well, so we are unavoidably linked into the meaning of the land. Living with the land, you might say. There's one more stop in Future World West before we hop over to Future World East, and it's 4. Journey into Imagination. Iconic glass pyramids home to everyone's favorite purple dragon, Figment. But what could possibly capture visually the broad scope and potential of imagination? This one is kind of out of the box, and I like it. It's a pinwheel, again invoking a certain sense of movement and appealing to the childlike wonder of imagination. Next stop, 5. World of Motion. This one is pretty abstract, but follows the same logic as Spaceship Earth's icon. The circle at the center appears to have a forward motion with air waves breaking around it aerodynamically. World of Motion in its early years explored a sort of history of transportation, but this icon would get a little lost when Test Track would move into the pavilion in the late 90s. Next up is 6. The Universe of Energy. This is another fairly abstract one, capturing an outward burst of energy, a sort of radiating outward. The thin lines close together are also kind of difficult to parse out without the lines appearing to vibrate, adding some actual perceived movement by short-circuiting human sight. There's one more icon for us in Future World East. 7. Horizons. It's just a horizon, but you really have to give it to Norm for giving a few lines a sense of depth. Following the idea of the horizon's attraction, this icon looks ahead into the mysterious future and whatever may be waiting just beyond the horizon. Okay, we have covered the first 7 EPCOT icons, and I'd like you to put a pin in this for a second. For the sake of this essay exploration, I am going to call these 7 icons the mainstays. And yes, we have one more original icon to look at, and it's 8. Communicore. In 1982, when computers were pretty brand new and touchscreens were barely possible, computer technology was the core showcase element of EPCOT Center. And this pavilion was large. In fact, the icon is based on the geographical footprint of the pavilion, located between Future Worlds East and West. Seeing as computer technology really took off in the 80s and 90s, Communicore was sadly not long for this world, but it would be replaced by other things, namely Innoventions, Club Cool, character meet and greets, until it was fully demolished starting in 2019. Now that the footprint of Communicore is gone, the icon doesn't, and actually physically can't, serve the same purpose as it once did. And so we have our first defunct EPCOT icon, lost to time and the forward march of progress. Which leads us to the next segment of EPCOT icon history, Part 2, the in-between times. Through the late 90s and 2000s, EPCOT's initial iconography, including its typeface and logos, would start to fade into obscurity. This happened for a few reasons. Firstly, as we saw with Communicore, the closure or total reimagining of a pavilion can spell the end of its related icon too. This would prove to be the case for a few of the original EPCOT icons. But first, we need to add one more icon to our list. 9. The Wonders of Life. Yes, before we start removing pavilions, let's add one more into the bunch. The Wonders of Life opened in 1989 and explored the inner workings of the human body, so the icon presented just that. The human body. However, if you have a keen eye, you may notice a few glaring stylistic differences between this new icon and all that came before it. This icon is far more detailed in its presentation. The previous icons could be assembled from lines and circles alone, but this icon features a more defined outline of the human body in silhouette. The icon is cut down the middle with black and white forms inverted on either side. The circle, the one motif that has carried through all of the EPCOT icons, also oddly seems to serve no purpose here. The human form is captured entirely in a pentagon, which is then surrounded by the circle. The circle and the pentagon serve essentially the same purpose, and it seems like the circle is only there to make it fit in with the other icons. Now, I can't help but think that there could have been a more interesting and more fitting icon for the Wonders of Life Pavilion, but it won't matter for very long anyways, because the Wonders of Life will appear in our list of lost pavilions and icons. Joining it on this list are Horizons, replaced by Mission Space, the World of Motion, replaced by Test Track, and the Universe of Energy, soon to be replaced by Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. Now, you may be wondering how these icons, which I previously referred to as mainstays, can be lost to time but still considered present. After all, the Communicore and Wonders of Life icons are well and truly gone. How can Horizons, Universe of Energy, and World of Motion escape the same fate? The answer came in 2019 with the announcement of a great future world overhaul set to revitalize EPCOT, introduce new avenues of exploration, and to resurrect elements of an EPCOT that lost its luster over decades of change. Part 3. Old Made New. When the plans and concept art for a new imagining of EPCOT were displayed at the D23 Expo in 2019, many homages to the past appeared alongside visions of the future. These visuals included stylized posters of possibly all EPCOT attractions, past, present, and future, an aerial concept rendering of EPCOT in a style reminiscent of early EPCOT concept art, and of course, a new lineup of pavilion icons, presented in a vibrant spectrum of colors. All told, there are 12 pavilion icons in this new lineup, plus the EPCOT icon itself. Let's quickly recap the icons that have gone unchanged. We have 1. Spaceship Earth, 2. The Seas, 3. The Land, 4. The World of Motion, now Test Track, just holding on to the same icon as its predecessor. It's still about transportation, speed, and forward motion into the future of travel, so although the attraction has changed significantly, the icon has stayed in place. And finally, 5. Imagination. Formerly Journey into Imagination, now simply Imagination! And now let's take a look at some of the new icons, starting with those that find their inspiration in their pasts. 6. Mission Space. At first glance, this looks like a new icon of its own, but on second observation, you may notice the horizontal lines and the vertical trajectory of the diamond, or the rocket ship. The resemblance isn't exact, but it's not difficult to see how Mission Space's icon is rooted in the Lost Horizons, occupying a similar outline of the attraction and icon that came before it. And 7, Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. In a similar fashion as Mission Space to Horizons, this icon finds its base forms in the Universe of Energy icon. 2 circles at the outer edges of the icon harken back to the many circles pulsing outwards in the Universe of Energy icon, but this time with yet another ship-like form at the center. Or maybe a more defined burst of energy, not too sure. I think it's a ship with wings, but only time will tell how this icon captures the essence of its coming attraction. Now on to the new icons, and unlike the Wonders of Life icon, these fit seamlessly among their elders, which to me is part of what makes this new era of Epcot so exciting. It's old made new and new made retro, a sort of unique cohesion to the underlying imagery of Epcot, hopefully. Icon number 8, the World Showcase. Yet another version of the same globe, this time with 3 latitude lines rather than the 2 of the lands and the 4 of Spaceship Earths. This interestingly divides the globe into 12 sections, perhaps indicating the 11 countries and Equatorial African Outpost area of World Showcase, making 12. But simply put, this is the world of the World Showcase. Not exactly a pavilion in itself, but a unified group of pavilions depicted as one. 9. Journey of Water. Slightly reminiscent of the seas icon with a wave-like form moving in the same direction, but ultimately based on the Heart of Te Fiti stone as seen in Moana. Since this pavilion, attraction, trail will be based around Moana, it only seems fitting to borrow some iconography from the film. What I think is rather serendipitous is to find that it fits so well among the other icons, especially alongside the seas, which is also close to where it will be located in Epcot. Next is 10, the Play Pavilion, occupying the same building as the Wonders of Life, but borrowing none of the past icons' elements. This one is pretty abstract, but based on the idea of play, I'd say this icon depicts 2 balls being thrown around in a circle. Like Cosmic Rewind, this one may require further insights to fully decode when the Play Pavilion opens in the next year or few. And if this one needs decoding, then the next and final 2 certainly do. 11, the Hexagon Pathway one. Now, this icon is currently associated with the Epcot Experience Center, previously known as the Odyssey Restaurant, or just that abandoned building between Future World and World Showcase. This pavilion is where the plans and ideas for the future of Epcot are currently on display, and the icon does somewhat depict the shape of the building and the paths leading out from it. But I wonder, and I imagine some others have too, that when the Epcot overhaul is completed, and I certainly hope that there will be such a day, if the Epcot Experience Center will no longer serve its current purpose, what may it become in the future? Could it become a little venue to celebrate Epcot's past? Because that projection room is super cool. And just imagine a show utilizing that technology that takes you through the history of Epcot. The other question I ask myself in all of this is, what would become of the Epcot Experience Center when the new Festival Center is built? Except now it may not be. I imagine that the new space of the Festival Center would have provided ample space to simply replace the Experience Center, but now that the Festival Center's construction is on hold indefinitely, perhaps the Experience Center and its icon will be sticking around. This all leads us to our final icon, 12, the Fountain Tree one. I really tried with these names. Here we have another possible candidate for the Festival Center, and I think a more likely one as the iconography does seem similar to the architecture presented in the concept art, with the main supports of the building reaching up and then fanning out like the lines in the icon. If this is the match we're looking for, then we may very well have a new defunct icon on our hands if the plans for the Festival Center are indeed abandoned. But there is another possible pavilion that this icon could belong to, Dreamer's Point. This area has been described and depicted as a sort of enchanted, futuristic garden park with paths, fountains, interactive trees, and a statue of Walt Disney looking out upon an EPCOT he never got to see, but one that has hopefully inspired people in a way that his experimental prototype community of tomorrow would have. The lines of this icon may then be branches of trees or pathways reaching from Spaceship Earth out into the worlds of discovery, celebration, and nature. Again, only time will tell. And so we have our EPCOT icons for a new age of EPCOT visitors. But wait, there's something funny going on with these colors. At least that's what I thought when I was conducting my research into this history, and indeed, there is something of a pattern here. Let's take a closer look at this EPCOT-specific rainbow. Part 4. The Rainbow Connection. Rainbows are nothing new to EPCOT. Rainbows were an integral part of the Imagination Pavilion, appearing as early as the concept art phase. After all, what captures the natural expression of imagination than a rainbow spotted in the sky? It's kind of a magical, naturally occurring thing. The Imagination Pavilion even featured a rainbow tunnel on its upper level back in the day, and Mickey and the gang used to appear in Epcot decked out in space-age attire that featured rainbows. They're kind of goofy costumes, but I kind of love it. It's so weird. Here again, with icons meant to harken back to Epcot's past and into Epcot's future, the icons together form a sort of rainbow. But more than that, the colors congregate to define the new worlds of Epcot. World Discovery is reds, pinks, and orange. World Showcase is yellow. World Nature is what else? Greens and blues on the green end of the spectrum, and World Celebration is blues and violets. Some pavilions suit their chosen color somewhat more specifically. For example, the Imagination Pavilion, home of Figment, who is purple, has a purple icon. Mission Space likely gets its orange hue from its orange mission. The land is green, the seas are aquamarine, but more generally, the worlds and their pavilions follow more broad associations with their color palettes. There's no mystery where the greens and blues of World Nature come from, but the reds and oranges evoke the energy and excitement of World Discovery. The yellow of World Showcase could perhaps be easily tied to amber lagers, golden pastries, sunny warmth, sort of sense of friendliness and cheerfulness, while World Celebration's blues and purples evoke blue skies and, of course, imagination. But there is yet one more layer to this color spectrum, this rainbow connection, if you will. Every color of light exists in the plain and unassuming white light. It is only when white light is shone through a prism that the full spectrum of light can be seen, a rainbow. And as the circles of the pavilion icons took their lead from the rings that made the Epcot icon, the color spectrum that divides itself across this new lineup of 12 icons can all be found and all come together to make the white that newly colors the logo that has represented Epcot since 1982. Thank you so much for listening to this shorter essay about Epcot icons. I bit off a little more than I could chew with the Spaceship Earth essay, not gonna lie. So I figured this shorter topic would be a bit more manageable, and luckily it was. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite Epcot icon is. I feel like mine are the seas and imagination. I really like the imagination one. I like its kind of symmetry. If you've enjoyed listening to this essay, click the like button and subscribe for more. I'm hoping to be making more like this. So until next time, this is Ms. Morrow signing off. See you in the future.